Hi guys, welcome back to Bunny Brick Designs. So today is Kumihimo Day. I am going to do a Kumihimo bracelet using my Kumihimo disc. And we're going to make something in the fall theme, seeing that it's October. And I'm going to show you how to do the basics, how to string on some beads, and run you through the process. And then I'm going to pause the video, finish up beading, and then so it doesn't get too long because it can take a while to do all of the beads. And then I will come back and show you how to finish it off. So what you're going to need is you're going to need a Kumihimo disc. You are going to need some S-Lon, C-Lon thread. I'm using black just because I think that'll go, it'll be well hidden with the exception of the orange. And actually, I don't know if I have any other colors. And I don't. So yeah, you can use any color. I mean, for this, I would have liked to have had some orange left. I think I had some for that, but the black will be fine. It'll be a nice neutral background. You're going to need some seed beads, and I've got 4 colors here. So I have bronze, I have a brick red, I have a matte frosted orange, and a matte dark olive green. And I'm going to be using these beads to make a fall theme bracelet. It's going to spiral. And you're going to need a measuring tape and some scissors. And I would recommend, if you're new to doing Kumihimo, a Kumihimo weight. I don't always use one just because I'm really good at holding it so that it hangs down just right. But if you're new to Kumihimo, you may want to get a weight or something. You can use, clips like this, just something that'll hold it down to kind of pull at it so that it pulls through. Anyways, what we're going to do to start out with, you're going to need a measuring tape, and we're going to cut 42 inches, and we're going to cut 4 of those. And you'll see why in a minute. So I'm going to start here, and I'm just going to go roughly 10 inches, and then 20, just because this is easier for me to hold on to. If you have a ruler, that's fine too. 30, 40, and I'm not exact, and that's fine. It's probably like 43. So you can cut the first one and then just hold on to it and just keep pulling until you get to the end, and there's 2. And I usually just hold on to everything together so I don't lose them. And I do 3. And 4. Now I know you're probably saying, well, that's awfully long for a bracelet, but we're actually going to be folding this in half. So now what we've done is we've got 4 lengths, and I'm going to find both ends here. And again, they're not perfect. They don't have to be. I'm going to pinch them, and I'm going to find the center, the perfect center of my, if I don't knot it before I want to. Let me get those. And this can be a pain. This part can be a pain, especially when you're working with this length and this many lengths. Now, ultimately, you could opt to cut 8 of them, 21 inches. You may want to cut a little longer if you're doing the 8 individuals, just because when you knot them, you're going to lose some length. And there's my center. All right, so I've got my center. I am just going to tie a knot. And again, it doesn't have to be 100% exact in the center. If it's off to one side slightly, we cut enough length, it's not really going to make a difference. All right. So now that we've got that knot in there, we are going to put this on our disc. And it really doesn't matter where you start with these because this is just getting it on. We're going to put one on either side of 1 and 2, one on either side of 25. So on your Kumihimo disc, your numbers may be different. Look for the lines. Do that. Sorry about the car horns. I don't know what's going on outside. And I like to kind of get them a little bit organized so that they're not crisscrossing just yet. You don't have to. It doesn't really matter because this part's not really going to be used, or it'll be hidden inside of your ends. So now with that on there, we have our item strung. So now what we're going to do is we are going to, and I am going to grab a weight for that, just to show you what that looks like. And so you're going to just, I have this Kumihimo weight. I got it on Amazon. You know, if you had bigger ones, you could hook this on, or if you were using a clip or a piece of wire or something, you could use the hook end or the alligator clip. And you're just going to pinch onto that. And it's going to hold it down. It's probably a couple ounces. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start wrapping before we put any beads on. And one thing I'm going to do before we put the beads on, and this is optional for you, you do not have to do this. I like to take a little Mod Podge just because it dries quick. And I'm just going to tap my finger in here and get a little glue on my finger. And I am going to just pinch the ends. And if you don't have enough glue, because I'm running out, and this is messy. You'll have to wash your hands or wipe your hands afterwards. But what this is going to do is make these nice little needle points so that when we go to put the beads on, it will be a lot easier to string the beads onto this without a needle. And I'm almost out of glue there, but I'm done. I'm at the last one. So we're going to put the cover on that. I am going to take a towel here and wipe my fingers. And while I'll still have glue on my fingers, it's fine. So what we're going to do, and I know that there's, two options of doing this. You can start with the left side or you can start with the right side. Keep in mind, depending on the pattern that you're working with, if they tell you to start with the right side, start with the right side. Otherwise, you're going to have to flip your beads, and that can get really confusing. I always start with the left side. I tend to do that because I figure it's reading direction. So you read left to right. I'm going to start left to right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the cord that's on the left-hand side of the number 1, and we're going to pull it out and bring it down, and keeping it on the left side, we're going to go to the left side of the cord that's between number 17. Then we're going to take the right cord on the bottom and bring it up to the right side of the top cord. So that's 2 steps, but one set of cords. Now we're going to turn the disc counterclockwise 90 degrees so that the number 9 is up, and we're going to repeat the process. So the left one goes down and the right one goes up. Rotate 90 degrees counterclockwise. Left down, right up. And let's do that again. Left down, right up. And it doesn't look like much right now, and it's going around the alligator clip, and that's fine. We're going to keep doing this until we get to a good stopping point. So I rotate left down, right up. Now, if you get lost as to where you are, I don't know if you can see this very well, but there is a cord. This number 5 cord is over top of these 2 cords here. So if I were to take some scissors and lift up here, you can see that it's over top of, maybe, can you see that? Yeah. It's over top of these 2 cords. And this one is over top of. So that means I've done this side. Now that means I need to turn it. So now if you get stuck and you happen to be like, well, I don't know which way, it doesn't really matter as long as you know which sides you stop on. Now I'm going to rotate and do the 11 cord. And if you're going to stop this, like if you're like, okay, I'm done for the night, I need to take a break, start out with pulling the top one down and leave it like this, because then this way I know exactly where I stopped. I've pulled this one down, now I need to pull this one up. So I am going to continue working on this until I get down and I have maybe 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to pause you and I will be right back. Okay, so that didn't really take me very long, but as you can see, I have about 1/4 of an inch there. I could probably go a little bit longer. I may do that, so we may do that together. Left, down, right, up, turn, left, down, right, up. I like to do this until, and I'm going to go pretty quick here while I'm talking. I like to get this so that I'm always at my starting numbers with the lines when I load up my beads, just because it makes it easier to understand, you know, where we're starting, which ones we need, which sides we need to put things on. Otherwise, it can get a little bit confusing. So I am going to look, and that's pretty long. Now, I want these back to my starting point. So to do that, I'm going to lift up and just move them all over back into my starting position. Here, now you don't have to do this, or you can continue working around until you're back to the number 1, number 9, 17, and 25, or whatever numbers are on your Kumihimo disc. But that's fairly long, and so that'll give me plenty to put into a glue-in end cap or crimp cap or whatever whatever you decide to use. Now, to load up beads, we are going to be doing a pattern, and so I load roughly, I usually do about 40 beads per strand, and then I don't necessarily use that much. It's anywhere between 32 to 40 depending on the size of your wrist. So what I would recommend is, and I'll show you when we get to it, is load up 40 beads, braid for a bit, and then use your measuring tape to measure the bracelet. You want it to be about 1/2 inch smaller than what you like for a bracelet. So if I'm measuring my wrist and I put my measuring tape on and I measure my wrist is about 6 1/4 inches if I do it tight. Now, if I do it loose, it's about 6 1/2. So you'll probably want your bracelet with clasp to be about 7 1/4, 7 to 7 1/4 inches if you want it somewhat tight. If you want it really loose, then 7 1/2. So you want your Kumihimo, your clasp is going to put on 1/2 inch to 1 inch depending on the clasp. So you'll want to make your bracelet So let's say I'm going to make it 7. I want to make my bracelet 6 inches without the clasp. And without the ends. So we will measure that when we get closer. So to load up beads, now that we've glued our nice ends and they're fairly dry, all we're going to do is load up, for this simple bracelet, I'm going to load 40 on each one of these strands. And sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. And we're going to start out on the number 1. I'm going to do orange, and I'm going to pause this. I'm going to load everything up, and then I will show you the pattern here, and I will be back. All right, guys, I'm back. So a couple things to mention before you start stringing your beads. If you happen to get a seed bead in your mix that is really misshapen like this one is, it's larger on one side than it is on the other, don't use that, because it's just gonna throw your design off. And then you're probably wondering, how do I keep all my beads on my cords? And so I use stopper beads, and they're just another seed bead. I usually do an opposite color, a different color, something that I know that is not part of my design. And all I do is feed the bead through, hold on to it, and then feed it back through in the same direction, forming like a loop, as you can see. So it goes in, and then this pulls tight. So while this will move, the beads, when they hang, will hang on it and really not come off. I mean, you know, they're not that heavy. Now, if you had heavier beads, I would recommend using bead stoppers. You could certainly do that if you didn't want to use a stopper bead. Just put the bead stopper in, if I can get this to pinch open, and then you could have your bead stopper. But yeah, I just use extra seed beads, just because I don't have enough of these to do it all. So now, in doing your design, and I'm going to get these moved on up here for a minute so we can take a look at. I'm going to take my Kumihimo weight off for the moment, just so I can show you the pattern here, and give you guys, and then you guys can pause the video and string your beads if you're following along. All right, so what I did to get my beads on, and I'm going to try to get this all on camera here for you, is I have, and that's backwards. There we go. And there we go. All right, so for cord number 1, or the left side of cord number 1, you want to string up orange. And then on the opposite side of that, so diagonal across, so 1 is the left upper, and 16 here is the right lower. And both of those are the orange. The left bottom and upper right are both the brick red. Same thing with the sides. We have the left of the 25 and the right of the 9 are both the green. And then we have the bronze, which are both the left on here and the right over here. So now I'm going to put my Kumihimo weight back on, and I'm going to show you how to start stringing your beads. Now, the beauty of having stopper beads like this is you can have the beads close to the top, and then when you run out of cord, you can just slide this down as you need more cord. So in order to drop beads, and I need to look at where my cords are crossing, and even though number 1, my cord, if you see here, is crossing these two here. So I'm going to have to start on number 9. And because we're doing a spiral and it does not matter where you start. Now with some patterns, if you're doing like my stars and stripes, it absolutely does matter where you start. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up my cord. I'm going to let one bead fall down toward the center. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that bead fall underneath this number 2 cord until it's underneath that. And I'm going to use that to hook the bead. Now, you may have to hold the bead to start the first few. The first few can get tricky because that cording is a little tight. So now I'm picking up the bottom right. I dropped a bead on, making sure it's underneath this cord right here. And I'm coming across and down. Now I'm going to see if I can add some more light to this for you. I don't know if that'll help. So then I'm going to rotate my 90 degrees. I'm going to pick up my left upper, drop an orange bead, and as you can see, that tucks underneath that cord, and it's underneath that left cord there. Pick up a bead, drop it, and then again making sure it's under and rotating. Now if you happen to get a bead on there, and let's say you've done that one and you're in the process of doing this one, and this guy comes up. Let me see if I can force him up. He comes up, oops, he fell off. Finish your step and then just pick that up and tuck him back under. Hold it down with your thumb. And again, that's why you need the weight, or you need to pull down. I usually just pull down. So now we've done that. We're going to do the red, and we're going to pick up the left of 2, come down, and we're just going to keep rotating and making sure it stays under. See how that one dropped under really nicely? And as you start getting more beads on, and I'm going to pick up the speed here a little bit, as I start putting more beads on, getting them to stay tucked under is going to be a little bit easier. Now, you don't want to pull so tight that you're pulling it like this. You want to pull it tight, but not so much that you're pulling your design out of shape like it is there, because that's going to cause issues in your spiral. So try not to be too tight with it. You just want to lift up, tuck under, and do it tight enough that it slightly pulls the cord, but not so much that it bends it out of shape. And we're going to do this side. And we're just going to keep going. And as you can see, it is forming a pattern. And I'm going to do a few more. And as you can see, it's doing an alternating pattern of green and bronze and orange and red. Now, if you wanted to do a single strand going one way, you would alternate your beads. I wanted to do this because I wanted to make it look like falling leaves. So this is, I'm going to call this one a falling leaves pattern. And I'm going to keep going for a little while, and then I will show you what the bottom looks like a little more in depth. I think this is going to be a very pretty bracelet. One of the things we're going to do when we get to the point of finishing it, I am going to put some leaf charms on it that are of the colors that we're using. Now, if you start to notice and like it's coming to one side, or it's being pulled in a direction, in order to straighten it out, all you have to do is just pull on the side to get it to go back to where you need it to be. So now And yes, I have a mess down here, but these come out real easy. There's not that much. I mean, if you were working for a necklace, I would recommend rolling these up on a card or something, or getting some wrap wire things to, or like spools to wrap it around, but they're just so small. I never worry about it. So now, I mean, that's starting to look good. That's starting to look like falling leaves to me. And that is why I specifically did the colors with the green and the bronze and the red and the yellow, or the red and the orange together. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to get this done a little bit, and I will be right back. Okay, just to show you guys real quick, I know I haven't gotten very far, but this right here, my beads are right up to the disc, and that can be hard to grab a hold of. So in order to just do that, if this happens to you, just take your stopper bead, slide it down a little bit, and give yourself some room. I just wanted to show you that. And as you notice, I stopped the video, or I stopped my braiding with the 3-in-1 configuration that I mentioned earlier, so that I knew where to pick up when I picked back up with the Kumihimo. That is looking fun and fabulous. I love that. That's going to be very fall. So I'm going to keep going, and I will be back in a minute. All right, guys, I am back, and I am almost done with my bracelet. And because I'm using 6/0 seed beads, I didn't use as many. I'm at roughly a little over 6 inches, so I'm going to continue doing a couple more beads here together with you. So I'm just going to do a few more rounds. It doesn't have to be exact unless you're making it specifically for someone and you know the size of their wrist. I always, when I do my findings, put extender chains on so that they're adjustable. Because when you're selling, I might make a bracelet that's 6 inches and somebody will absolutely love it, but they'll need a 6.5 inch. So I end up putting extender chains on so that a 6-inch bracelet will fit a 6 to 7 inch wrist. My 6.5 inch will fit 6.5 inch to 7.5 inch. If you need smaller ones, obviously you can make smaller bracelets. And I am just going to do a few more rounds here just to get it to what I need. And if you've been following along, you'll have a bracelet that looks like this. I absolutely love this because, and it came out better than I expected when I did the 2 frost, the red and the yellow there, and I have bunnies that's begging for cookies again. So I just like how there's just this pop of sparkle in the bronze, and then everything else is frosted. It definitely reminds me of fall. All right, so now that I have finished doing that, I need to do a few more rounds without adding beads. So I am going to do 2, 3, 3, 4. Again, I just need to have a small, I need to have enough that, that I can tie off, and I'm going to show you how to tie off here in a minute. That I can tie off and put into my findings. And when we do the findings, I'm going to talk about how to finish off here in a minute. There's 2 different ways to do it. It just depends on your preference, depends on what you like. One way will make it a little bit longer so you can use less beads. Another way will kind of cover the first few beads so that if you have an end that doesn't look very good, so like if you're just starting out and these beads on this end are not pretty, then you can You can hide them depending on the findings that you use. All right, I am pretty well done, and I've got about 1/4 of an inch there. And so to finish off, you are going to take and make sure, so when you're looking at this, again, I know that I finished off here because this one's above these two cords. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one on the right on the top and one on the left on the bottom. So they're diagonal. And I am just going to tie them in a knot. Okay? Just one. You don't have to worry about this. I'm going to then take the top left and the bottom right and tie that in a knot and put them back. And yes, I tie my knots weird. And then I'm going to turn it and do the same thing with the top. And it doesn't really matter at this point once you've gotten those. And yes, I'm trying to do this on camera and not turn the disc to confuse you. And then I'm going to tie these. And once you've gotten the last one tied, it doesn't really matter. You can pop them off your disc. I did not use all my beads again. That's why I put 40 on. I still have some left. That's fine. So now I have a nice Kumihimo bracelet. I am going to cut off just there. That's fine. You don't have to worry about it. I am going to dump my beads on one of these cords because what I want to do in order to, and I just lost my string, but that's fine. We'll do another string here. I have a knot on this side. I have a bunch of knots on this side with some mess. I will show you how to finish that off in a second. When you're doing your ends, you have options. I like to use the glue-in bails just because I think they're neater and it just has the end. Now I could put on and I'm just going to show you here even though I have ends here. I could put on my findings so it covers just the cord like this and goes right up to the start of the beads. Or you could use a big metal thing that will cover, and this one might not be big enough. That's the same size. You could get bigger ones. I have different sizes here where I could put the whole Kumi piece in, and this actually will work. And it'll be the same size as the bracelet. So depending on what you want it to look like, and so I'm going to put this one here and then this one on this end here. So depending on which way you like, you can do it that way. I think I'm going to actually use these smaller ones. Excuse me. I like doing it on the ends. So now when you're doing that, you do need to glue these knots. One of the things I like to do instead of gluing and waiting for the glue to dry is I will take some of the scrap and I am just going to tie somewhere down low a pretty good tight knot here. And I will show you why in a second. Because what I'm going to do now that I've tied the knot around there is I'm actually, and I'm going to get glue out here. I like to use super glue because it dries quick. E6000 also works good. So you're going to have to find, and it's very hard to see with the black cord, but there is my knot right there. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to quickly trim off that. And then, yes, it's going to knot up, but what we're going to do is we're going to put some super glue on that. And then I'm going to use a piece of paper here, and I'm just going to fold those in and then just push that down on and hold it there for a few seconds. And it's going to take a few minutes, a few seconds. And then what I can do is I will use, once this dries, I will clip off this string. The other alternative that you can do, and I will show you here if I have it, is sometimes I will cheat and use a piece of tape to do this instead of the knotting. And I will tape it. I will tie it, but I will also tape it so that when I cut off that end, it doesn't fray. Again, you can glue this and let the super glue dry for an hour or so, E6000, whatever it is. But again, then you have to glue it, wait for it to dry, and then apply more glue. And so here, holding on with the tape, and again, you don't have to worry about the tape getting in the way, because again, it's going to get glued in. We're just going to trim that. I'm actually going to trim these ahead of time. And I know that one looks like it's a little bit long. It may be, but it'll fit in there. So when I put the tape on, instead of super gluing the ends, I will put super glue in there, and that might be a little bit much. But again, I'm just going to push it in, hold it for a few seconds just to give it some hold. And again, like I said, I use super glue, I use E6000. This isn't going to come off. Once this is glued in like that, that's not coming off. I would, just so when you're doing this, give that about an hour to dry, because the glue does absorb into the cords. And so while we're going to finish this, we're not going to be super, what do you call it? Super aggressive to the caps, because they're going to need time. So I decided, as you can see here, I've got some leaf findings, some leaf charms, and I'm going to put these on it so that it's it's got a dangle on the clasp. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put jump rings in all of these, and then decide what I want to hang where. So we do that, and that. I don't know if I like that. I might like that. There we go. That, and that. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to build it so that it does hang a little more prominently than it is wide. And so I'm going to take another jump ring, and I'm going to go in here, and then I am going to do this and put those two together. Okay. And so what that's going to do is it's going to give me, when I hold it up by the jump ring that is in the yellow, it's going to give me a little bit of a dangle. And then I'm going to take another jump ring and go in here and again into the green one, which will give me yet another dangle. So now if I hold it up by the yellow, I have 3 dangles like that. I am then going to grab an extender chain. Like I said, I always use extender chains, and some smaller jump ring here, and a smaller jump ring out of my findings. And I am going to attach extender chain, jump ring onto one side, and again, I'm going to be very gentle here if I can. Ugh. And that one may need a bigger jump ring just because there's a lot on that. So let's use a bigger jump ring on that one, just because there is a lot going on there. Chain, I wanted the yellow at the top. Whoops. The yellow at the top. And I'm getting my fingers in super glue. Ha! There we go. All right, so that one's on. Like I said, I didn't want to be too rough with it because I'm afraid of it coming loose. I usually like to give super glue, even though it's like a minute, it's supposed to cure in like a minute or two. With fabric stuff, I've noticed it takes up to an hour, sometimes more. So I'm always gentle. But anyways, that is our finished bracelet. And when you hook it together, it's going to have a dangle on the back of the wrist. And again, you can extend it, as you can see. You can make a very big bracelet, or you can make a smaller one. But, so that's a Kumihimo. And now there's numerous ways to finish off the ends of Kumihimo. So I'm just going to preface that here while we're talking. You can use wire, and you can wire in and do ends like this with the hole in them. And I would still always glue, but you can use ends like that with the hole. You can, like I said, you can use the bigger ones, you can use these smaller ones, glue in bales, wire in bales, crimp bales, numerous ways to finish those off. It's just whatever your preference is, and mine is just doing that and gluing, because the glue, I think, holds it pretty well, and hides any ends that you don't want to see. And like I said, if you had wanted to use the bigger ones, like I buy kits like this because I do make Kumihimo in various sizes, some very small, some very large. So depending on what I'm doing and the look that I'm going for. So for example, if I had this Kumihimo and I was using bigger beads, so if I was mixing in larger beads like 8/0s or findings and stuff, and making like a big chunky necklace, maybe I would use the bigger these bigger ends, because I think it would lend to the design more. So again, it's always up to you how you want to finish them, what you want it to look like. I think this looks fabulous. I love the look of it. And if we were to put it with, let me dig out one of my falling leaves bracelets here. I mean, as you can see, that goes extremely well with that. So if you wanted to have, you know, multiple bracelets going on, you know, it's a beautiful fall bracelet. So anyways, that's Kumihimo. I will probably do another one because I do have a technique of getting Kumihimo like this onto a memory wire, and I will be doing one of those in a future video to show you how to get this onto a memory wire. So anyways, that's it for now, and thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.